I have been asked a question, perhaps it's a question you are asking yourself right now, and it is one of a most fundamental importance. What is the difference between thinking about ourselves and observing ourselves? The person asking this implies, and I think rightly, that these are two entirely different, perhaps even opposing movements. So let us find out together, you and I, what this difference truly is. First, we must be extraordinarily clear about what we mean by thinking about ourselves, because this is the territory we all inhabit, the world we all know so very well. It is that constant, incessant inner monologue, that voice in the head that is always calculating, judging, comparing, and concluding. Is the voice that says, I am making progress, or I am better today than I was yesterday, or I have so many problems, I must resolve them. Is the movement of desire and fear, the endless wishing, I wish I had a better house, I wish I had more money, I wish I were more successful, I wish I were loved. This is the activity of thinking about oneself, and most of us are caught in this cycle for our entire lives, from the moment we wake until the moment we fall asleep. Even the austere monk, the sannyasi who has outwardly renounced the world, is trapped in this very same activity, for he thinks constantly about his progress, his purification, his closeness to God. It is still the self, the I, thinking about itself, only it has changed its costume from a worldly one to a so-called spiritual one. We know this movement, don't we? It is essentially a process of going round and round in circles, trapped within the very small, confined field of the me. It is the activity of the ego, the self, which is either trying to expand itself or contract itself. When it expands, I declare, I am the world, I am God, I must be more kindly, I must love, I must become intelligent, I must meditate in order to achieve some state of bliss. And when it contracts, I am lost in my own petty anxieties, my fears, my jealousies, my sense of loneliness and despair. But whether it is inflating itself with grand ideas or deflating itself in misery, the I, the self, remains the absolute center of this entire psychological field. This is the life we know. Now, the question is, what is the difference between that activity, that self-centered thinking, and observing oneself? The question itself implies that observation is something entirely different, something outside of that self-centered field. So let's find out what it means to observe. Are we together in this? This is a journey we must take together, not one where I tell you and you simply accept or reject. Let's start very simply. Can we observe anything at all, without the word? Can you look at the mountain, that vast geological structure of rock and ice, and not have the word mountain immediately rush into your mind? Can you observe the evening light on a cloud, that extraordinary burst of color and light and immensity, that profound beauty, without the brain instantly naming it cloud, sunset, beautiful, lovely? Can we do that? This is not a rhetorical trick. It is a genuine inquiry. Can you look at anything objectively, the trees, the water, the evening star, the deep silence of a morning? Can you look at this extraordinary natural world we live in without a single word, a single label interfering. To find that out, we have to go into this question of why the brain is so compulsively caught in this network of words. Are we moving together? We are asking, can we look at anything, including my wife, my husband, my daughter, the politicians, the various gurus and priests, and the entire circus that goes on in the name of religion? Can we look at all of that without an immediate reaction? And further, can we look at all of that without the network of words, of labels, forming a screen between us and the thing we are looking at? Have you ever actually tried to do this? When you look at your wife or your husband, the person you have lived with for perhaps 10, 20, or 50 years, can you look at them at all without all the images, all the memories, all the conclusions you have accumulated about them? Can you look at them as if for the first time? Or when you look, are you actually seeing the living person in front of you? Or are you, in fact, only seeing the image you have built of them, which is your own collection of memories, pleasures, hurts, and expectations? You are exceptionally silent when I talk about this. But this is the root of our sorrow, isn't it? We are not in relationship with each other at all. We are in relationship with the images we have created of each other. So one has to find out with great seriousness why the brain is so caught up in words. You see, the moment you use a word, you have stopped looking. The moment you say, he is a communist, or he's a capitalist, or he's British, he's an Indian, you have put him in a category, in a cage, and you feel you are finished with him. You have wiped him out. See what is happening in our brains. We are linguistically, neurologically caught by the word, not by the significance or the depth behind the word, but by the mere label itself. And we think this labeling is thinking, is understanding. This requires careful watching. That watching is the observation. I saw a hot air balloon going up this morning. Perhaps you saw it too. You watched it going up and up, very slowly, with the gondola hanging beneath it. You saw the whole thing. And then, perhaps, the mind came in, said, by Jove, I wish I were up there. Or, how dangerous that must be. Or, I wonder how much it costs. The moment the thought, the word, the reaction entered, the observation ceased. We never just look at anything without this constant chatter, this endless reaction. You are sitting there and you are, unfortunately, looking at the speaker. And you have already put me into a category, haven't you? You already have an image about me. You already say, he's this, or he's that. He's some kind of wise man, or he's some kind of idiot, or whatever you like to say. And therefore, you never actually see the speaker. You never look at this person as though for the first time. Have you ever tried to do this with anything? Not just for a fleeting minute or for a day, but to have that quality of a fresh brain, a mind that is not caught in the grooves of its own words and reactions, a mind that can look at everything the world, your partner, your own fear, as though for the first time. That observation is the beginning of watching oneself. It is to watch, to be aware, never allowing a single thought to escape without noticing it, without being aware of it, giving your whole complete attention to that one thought, and then to the next thought. You keep at it. You do this so that your brain becomes tremendously attentive, incredibly sharp and alive. And you will see that this watching has no I in it. It is not an egocentric movement. It is not the I watching its own states. It is just watching. Whereas thinking about yourself, I must be better, I am suffering, is the very essence of egotistic, self-centered activity. The difference is total. One is the prison, the other is the key. So we have seen, perhaps, that there is a vast and fundamental difference between the endless, self-centered chatter of thinking about oneself and the pure, attentive act of observation. One is the movement of the ego, the I, caught in its own circle of desires and fears, perpetually trying to become something, while the other is a state of simple, clear-sighted awareness in which the I and its noise are absent. Now, if you have seen this difference, even for a moment, a question naturally arises, doesn't it? It's the question that everyone in their heart must ask. I see this. I see that I am caught in this self-centered, egocentric turmoil. I see that all my thinking is just this silly, repetitive motion. And I see that observation is something entirely different, something clear, sane, and free. So, how do I get from here to there? How do I move from this prison of thinking about myself to that freedom of observation? This must be the question in your mind, isn't it? Or am I asking the question and you're just passively accepting it? If you are, then it has no meaning. But if you have seen the division in your own life, this question becomes urgent, vital. I am selfish. How do I become unselfish? I am in conflict. How do I find peace? I am thinking. How do I learn to observe? But I must ask you, and please explore this with me, is that a right question? Is how the correct inquiry here? Or is this question itself a terrible trap, the very first and last trap of the self-centered mind? Let's look at it. When you ask how, what do you imply? You imply the need for a method, a system, a process, a 7-step guide, a technique that you can practice day by day in order to achieve the state of observation. We are obsessed with this, aren't we? Our entire modern culture is built on the how to be happy, how to be successful, how to be mindful. We download the app, we follow the guru, we practice the method, all in the belief that by doing something, by following a path, we will arrive at a result. But who is the I that is asking how? Who is the I that will practice the method? Who is the I that will achieve the result? Is it not the very same self-centered consciousness that we are trying to be free from? When I say I am selfish, now I must observe, I must not be selfish, that will, that effort, is it not the exact same movement as thinking about oneself? It is the ego seeing a new, more desirable state called observation, and now it wants to acquire it just as it wants to acquire a new car or more money or a spiritual reputation. The I is the problem, and that I cannot, through any method or any act of will, bring about its own end. It can only redecorate its prison cell. It can only put on a new, more refined, more spiritual mask. But underneath, it is the same movement of self-interest. Do you see this? This is of absolute importance. If you say, I will move from here to there, you are still the I who is a mover, an achiever. You have just set up a new goal for yourself, a new ambition. And ambition, even spiritual ambition, is the very essence of the self. Therefore, the question how is fundamentally the wrong question. So, what then if the how is a trap? What is one to do? The answer, you see, is not outside the question. The answer is found in observing the question itself. When you ask, how do I move from my selfishness to observation? Watch that question. Look at it. What does it reveal? It reveals the I at its very center. It reveals a tremendous motive, the desire to escape the pain of what I am and to gain the pleasure of what I should be. It reveals the desire for a result, for an achievement. And that very desire is the selfish, self-centered consciousness. To see this, to see the structure of the question, the motive behind it, the I that is asking it, that seeing is observation, you don't move from selfishness to observation. You don't practice observation. In the light of pure, choiceless observation, the nature of the selfish movement is seen. And when something false is seen completely, truly, as false, it simply falls away. This brings us to the real root of it, which is the problem of time. Thinking about myself is completely, profoundly caught in psychological time. It is the time-binding quality of the mind. Look at how the self lives. It lives in the past, which is our memory of all the hurts, the pleasures, the insults, the flatteries, the accumulated experiences that have built the image of me. And it lives in the future, which is the projection of that me. I will be happy. I will fulfill my potential. I will find security. I will one day reach enlightenment. I have no identity now, but I am going to establish one. I have no roots, but I will find them. Do you follow? This entire movement of becoming is the movement of thought projecting itself from the known past into a manufactured future. This psychological time is the self. The I is that bundle of past memories and future projections. Now, what is observation? When you truly watch that bird on the branch, or the cloud moving, or your own breath in that instant of pure watching, is there any time? In that second, there is no past or no future. There is no I who is watching, no I who has problems, no I who is trying to achieve anything. There is just watching. There is no time in it at all. Observation is always in the immediate present, the now. It has no duration. It is not a process you build up over days. It is an immediate, timeless perception. So, thought and the word create psychological time. The very word me is the center of this time-binding quality. Therefore, you see, the self-centered mind, which is time, cannot possibly understand or move to or achieve that which is timeless. Any effort it makes to do so is just a continuation of itself, a continuation of time. So, The question is not how do I move? The question is, can I see the entire structure of this self centered thinking with its words, its reactions, its ambitions, its creation of psychological time, and see that it is not observation? Can I just watch this movement in myself? Can I be aware of a single thought, giving my whole attention to that one thought as it arises, and then to the next and the next, so that the brain becomes extraordinarily attentive? In that precise, quiet, timeless watching, the difference is not a theory, it is a living reality. The old movement of the self simply ceases because it is seen for what it is, a circle of thought, a shadow, a noise. And in the silence of that observation, something entirely new is possible. Thank you for joining me in this inquiry. If these questions resonate with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel to continue this exploration together.